My people do not need promises. They need fields to feed their children and schools to shape their dreams. I am no hero, just a son of this soil, working to give my nation the dignity it deserves.
On July 27, 2025, in the tranquil heart of Oslo, Norway, a moment unfolded that would redefine the global narrative on peace. The Norwegian Nobel Committee, custodians of the world's most hallowed accolade, announced a short list for their own list. 2025 Nobel Peace Prize. Among the 5 names read aloud, one ignited a firestorm of awe, debate, and hope. Ibrahim Traoré, the 36-year-old interim president of Burkina Faso. This was no mere nomination. It was a clarion call, a challenge to the very foundations of how the world perceives leadership, governance, and peace in the 21st century. Traoré, a soldier who seized power in a military coup in September 2022, stood not as a politician molded by elite institutions or a diplomat polished by global summits, but as a man of the soil, a leader whose vision of peace was rooted in the sweat of farmers, the dreams of children, and the resilience of a nation long relegated to the margins. His name spoken in the austere halls of Oslo sent ripples from the dusty streets of Ouagadougou to the corridors of power in Paris, Washington, and beyond, demanding a reckoning with what peace truly means in an era of fracture and flux. The announcement was electric in the minimalist elegance of the Nobel Institute. Journalists leaned forward, pens poised as the committee's chair uttered Traoré's name. Diplomats exchanged glances, their whispers mingling with the weight of history. A young African leader, barely in his 4th decade from a nation ranked among the world's poorest, was now a contender for an honor synonymous with the legacies of Nelson Mandela, Malala Yousafzai, and Martin Luther King Jr. Traoré's journey from a village boy to a global symbol was a testament to the power of conviction over convention, action over rhetoric, and hope over despair. This is the epic tale of Ibrahim Traoré, the farmer in uniform who turned battlegrounds into farmlands, despair into dignity, and a nation's struggle into a beacon for the world. Ibrahim Traoré was born in 1988 in a small village in Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation in the arid expanse of West Africa's Sahel region. His childhood was etched by the relentless realities of poverty. The sun beat down on cracked earth. Electricity was a rare visitor, and hunger was a constant companion. Yet within this crucible of hardship, Traoré's spirit was forged. His parents, subsistence farmers who wrested life from unforgiving soil, instilled in him a reverence for the land and a fierce sense of duty. "The earth is our mother," his mother would say, her hands calloused from years of toil. "Treat her with respect, and she will provide." Those words became the bedrock of Traoré's life, shaping a boy who saw not limitations, but possibilities in the dust beneath his feet. The military was Traoré's path to opportunity. In a country where education was a luxury, the army offered structure, discipline, and a chance to rise. He joined not for power, but for purpose, driven by a desire to serve a nation he saw slipping into chaos. By his early 30s, he had earned a reputation as a captain of unwavering integrity, respected by his soldiers for his fairness and by his superiors for his resolve. But as he climbed the ranks, he witnessed a nation unraveling. Burkina Faso was bleeding. Insurgent groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State ravaged the northern and eastern regions, displacing over 2 million people and leaving a trail of death and destruction. The government led by President Roch Christian Kabore seemed impotent, unable to stem the violence or address the deeper wounds of poverty, corruption, and exploitation by foreign powers. By September 2022, the situation was untenable. Multinational corporations controlled vast swaths of Burkina Faso's farmland, exporting profits while locals starved. Foreign aid, often laden with exploitative conditions, offered no real salvation for Traoré and a cadre of young officers. The breaking point had come on September 29, 2022. They staged a bloodless coup, ousting Kabore and naming Traoré interim president at the age of 34. The world recoiled. Military coups were seen as anathema to democracy, relics of a darker era. The African Union suspended Burkina Faso's membership, and Western capitals issued stern condemnations. But Traoré stood resolute. In his first address to the nation, delivered in a simple military uniform, he spoke not of conquest, but of creation. "We did not come to rule," he declared, his voice steady as the Sahel winds. "We came to rebuild." Those words, raw and unadorned, marked the dawn of a revolution unlike any other. A revolution not of ideology or power, but of labor, unity, and truth. Traoré's vision for Burkina Faso was as audacious as it was elemental: peace through self-reliance. In an age of performative diplomacy and hollow promises, he chose the ancient virtues of work, sacrifice, and community. His battlefield was not the war-torn north, but the hunger that plagued every village, the ignorance that dimmed young minds, and the despair that crushed the human spirit. His weapons were not guns, but schools, clinics, and seeds. Within months of taking power, Traoré unleashed a torrent of reforms that would transform Burkina Faso and send shock waves across Africa and the world. The insurgency that had torn Burkina Faso apart was Traoré's first challenge. Rather than escalating the cycle of violence, he chose a path of radical reconciliation. Over 12,000 former militants, men and women who had once fought under the banners of terror, were welcomed back into society through community dialogues, vocational training, and resettlement programs. Traoré worked tirelessly with local leaders, from village elders to religious figures, to create spaces where former fighters could lay down their weapons and pick up tools. Carpenters, farmers, and artisans emerged from the ashes of conflict, their hands now building rather than destroying. On May 4, 2025, Traoré took this vision further, pardoning 1,100 former militants and enrolling them in the Farmers of Peace program. This initiative, hailed by the United Nations as a global model for post-conflict reconciliation, turned battlegrounds into fertile fields and villages along the Nadanon River. Men who once manned checkpoints now operated irrigation pumps there, overalls emblazoned with the words "Farmers of Peace." The impact was staggering. Terror attacks dropped by 70%, and communities once divided by fear began to heal. In the town of Kaya, a former militant named Musa Zongo spoke for many when he said, "I fought because I had nothing. Traoré gave me a purpose, a field, a future, a home." This approach was not without risk. Reconciliation required trust in a nation scarred by betrayal, courage in a region where vengeance was the norm. Betrayal's conviction was unshakable. "These are not enemies," he said. "They are our brothers and sisters, led astray by despair. Our duty is to bring them back to the light." His words resonated not just in Burkina Faso, but across the Sahel, where similar conflicts had left deep wounds. The Farmers of Peace program became a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of second chances and the possibility of peace forged through unity rather than division. Perhaps Traoré's boldest move was the reclamation of 3.8 million hectares of farmland from foreign corporations. For decades, multinational agro-businesses had dominated Burkina Faso's fertile plains, extracting wealth while local farmers languished in poverty. In a single defiant act, Traoré's government nationalized key agricultural assets and redistributed the land to smallholder farmers. "The land is not for sale," he declared, echoing the revolutionary spirit of Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's iconic leader. "It belongs to those who work it, who love it, who live by it." This act of economic sovereignty sent shockwaves through global markets. Farmers now empowered with land, seeds, and tools began cultivating maize, sorghum, and millet, transforming rural economies. In the village of Pisila, a farmer named Fatoumata Arago described the change. Before Traoré, we were tenants on our own land, begging for scraps. Now we grow our own food, and our children no longer go to bed hungry. Markets overflowed with locally grown produce and food insecurity once a daily reality began to recede. The move also struck a blow against Burkina Faso's dependence on foreign aid, signaling to the world that the nation would forge its own path. The reclamation of land was more than an economic policy. It was a cultural and spiritual rebirth. Farmers long marginalized stood taller, their hands reclaiming not just the soil, but their dignity. In the town of Gorom Gorom, a market vendor named Aisha Diallo said, "When Traoré gave us back the land, he gave us back our pride. We are no longer beggars, we are builders." The ripple effects were profound. Local economies flourished. Rural communities thrived. And Burkina Faso began to rewrite its story as a nation of resilience and self-determination. Traoré's vision extended far beyond Burkina Faso's borders. The Sahel, a region ravaged by desertification and climate change, became the canvas for one of his most ambitious projects, the Sahel Life Alliance. In partnership with Mali and Niger, Traoré led a regional coalition to plant 800 million trees across the arid landscape, transforming barren wastelands into green